Now, the Liberal Democrats are holding their annual conference and the party's strategists are turning their attention to how they can win here in the East Midlands. Our patch is something of a desert for the party, with no MPs and just one MEP and control of one district council. But the party leader Nick Clegg told East Midlands Today's Dominic Heel he sees that as an improvement.
Well, it's a lot better than it used to be. I think for about 70 years we weren't represented at all at parliamentary level. But of course I would like us to do better. And of course I'm aware of the fact that over the last 3 years while we've been in coalition, we have suffered in the polls and there's been a hit to our, I hope a temporary hit to our popularity. I get the impression, I'm a regular visitor to the East Midlands, that people in the East Midlands, much as in other parts of the country, are developing a sort of begrudging respect for the fact that we've stuck with it, and that if we hadn't stuck with it, we wouldn't now start seeing the beginnings of an economic recovery. And I think it's not an exaggeration to say that without the unity and resolve of the Liberal Democrats, we wouldn't now be seeing the better news in the economy. Plus, of course, the other things that we've delivered for the people of East Midlands, whether it's a better state pension, largest cash increase in the state pension ever, more apprenticeships, the pupil premium for kids from difficult backgrounds, disadvantaged backgrounds in school. Of course, most notably, as of next April, no one in the East Midlands will have to pay a penny of income tax on the first £10,000 they earn, which is worth about £700 to the basic rate taxpayer. All of that are great Liberal Democrat achievements, of which I'm very proud, but I think we need to shout about them a bit more.
Specifically, 2 years ago, you'll remember you were in Nottingham with the Prime Minister announcing an enterprise zone based around boots. There doesn't seem to be a huge amount of progress since then. Is there anything you can tell us about that? Well,
I don't have a sort of announcement in my back pocket about but I am frustrated that some of these enterprise zones, not all of them, some of the enterprise zones have got sort of a bit stuck on various details, and I would like to see the enterprise zone at the Boots site, which I did indeed visit myself, move forward as quickly as possible, because I think it's a great way of attracting investment and of course of generating jobs locally.
So, briefly and finally, will your rallying cry be to the Liberal Democrat conference, hang on in there, and is that the best you can do at this stage in a coalition government?
It's a lot more uplifting than that. I think it's the fact that we have actually done great things in government. We are now a party of government. We're no longer a perpetual party of opposition. We are the only party of the Liberal centre ground. The Labour Party is being pulled to the left. The Tory Party is being pulled to the right. If you want a party that believes in a stronger economy, doing the difficult jobs to do that, and a fairer society, not either or, then the Liberal Democrats are the only party now able to deliver that in British politics.
Nick Clegg there, and in a moment we'll be hearing from an East Midlands Lib Dem hoping to make a breakthrough. But first, another of the party's big guns was on the patch this week. Vince Cable was here to visit the biggest Lib Dem success story in the East Midlands, Hinckley and Bosworth Borough Council, where the party is in charge. But he was realistic about the challenges facing the Lib Dems in making more gains in this region.
Well, we've got a base in several areas. Hinckley and Bosworth, brilliant council, very highly regarded. We have been strong in other parts of the area. Leicester for many years. We've had a base in Nottingham, but not now. Chesterfield used to be a held seat. So we've had experience in many parts of the East Midlands, but it's fallen away. We recognise that reality. And being in government has been a mixed blessing politically. We get criticised for everything that goes wrong, but I think we are now beginning to get across the message that Lib Dems have made a big and positive contribution in the government.
I guess you can always rely on Vince to be a bit of a realist, can't you? Michael, you are from a rare Lib Dem stronghold. In fact, the biggest Lib Dem branch in the East Midlands and one of the fastest growing local memberships in the country. But let's face it, it's the exception, not the rule.
Well, you've said that we've got a really good story to tell in Bosworth, Hinckley and Bosworth, where we run the council, where we have had this huge increase in membership, lots of support locally. In the recent county council elections, we came first in the Bosworth constituency in terms of seats for the first time since the county council elections begun. So things are going really well there. We still have a lot of support in other areas. Ashfield, for example, we had a very close result with Labour in the county council elections. We've still got lots of county councillors in Broxtowe, and so there's a lot of places in the East Midlands where we still have a lot of support.
OK, well, Nick Clegg said last year that the Lib Dem voters who turned to Labour were a lost cause. Do you agree?
No, there were plenty of
people... Are
people...
you going to fight to win them back?
Absolutely. Plenty of people in Bosworth will vote Liberal Democrat because they know that if they want a change from David Tredinnick, who's been the Conservative MP for 26 years, the only way they can do that is by voting Liberal Democrat. And there are lots of local people who are inclined towards Labour who support us because they see that in Bosworth we campaign on lots of local issues, services, saving the ambulance station. But there are a lot of other
people who think that the real problem for your party is the man at the top.
Nick Clegg made a remarkable performance in the 2010 debates, really made a massive impact and really increased support for the party.
His ratings are very, very low. I mean, senior Lib Dem peer Lord Oakeshott has said it's nothing personal, but you've just got to look at the facts. He said Nick Clegg's ratings are lower than Margaret Thatcher's were before she left. He's got to go, hasn't he? Well,
we're still winning in Hinckley and Bosworth with Nick Clegg as leader, and I expect him to carry on. We've still got a huge amount of support in our area. We're still campaigning and doing well. You know, we've got great things happening in our area. We've got the enterprise zone that's coming to Myra that's bringing thousands of jobs. We've got the DPD parcel company coming to Hinckley that's bringing 1,000 jobs in. The economy is going really well in our area.
OK, and the Lib Dems are growing in some areas, Graham.
Well, I don't think they're growing in Nottingham North. We're recruiting quite a lot of people, but in a way I feel sorry for people like Michael and other councillors of all political parties, because they suffer.
Do you want them to feel sorry for you?
No, they suffer from what the people do at the top level. So people will always, they can't vote for who the Prime Minister is directly, so they take it out on the local councillors. And I think you'll find that they'll be taking it out on the Liberal Democrats. No one, unfortunately, now trusts the Liberal Democrats because of Nick Clegg and his promises that were broken in those very debates in 2010.
It all goes back to that. You see those broken promises. That's what a lot of people think.
Well, we've delivered on the main policies that we put forward, taking people out of income tax up to £10,000. Well, on the tuition fees issue, my view is quite plain. I'm opposed to tuition fees. I signed a letter to Nick Clegg when the vote took place on tuition fees saying I was still against them, and I continue to be against them. I signed the pledge and I kept to that.
What about your party, Jessica? What do you think about the Lib Dems?
Well, I think we've had a successful marriage of convenience, as it were, during the government. Hopefully not, going for an overall majority. I think all main parties will be seeking that at the general election, no question. But I think on the key areas of the economy and welfare reform, where there have been some really significant improvements and reforms, there has been agreement by the two main parties. But I think we'll also see a natural separate campaigning, I suppose, by the main party leaders in the run-up to the general election, which is sort of 18 months or so.
And you say you'd rather not have another coalition. Interesting, the Sunday Politics poll of Lib Dem councillors right across the country found that if there is another hung parliament, twice as many of them would rather be in a coalition with Labour than your lot.
Well, sometimes it's better the devil you know, I would say to some of those Lib Dem councillors. I think, as I say, I think that it's been for the national interest. Nobody got an overall majority, as we know. Two main parties came together to form that coalition. But there will be a sort of more natural separation in the next sort of...
When's that going to happen?
Well, I think we'll just see natural campaigning. I think we'll hear announcements from party leaders.
Who would you rather be in coalition with, Michael?
Well, I'd like us to be in government on our own, to be honest, in putting our views forward.
Well, of course,
we will campaign for the maximum amount of votes and the maximum amount of seats, and the party will fight the election on that programme.
Would you rather go to Graham's lot, though, if you had to?
We will campaign for what we believe in. And look, it will all depend on what the public does. In the end, the arithmetic last time was that we could only go in with the Conservatives because a coalition with Labour wouldn't add up. We'll be standing for the things that we're campaigning for. We're different to both parties. We may be in agreement with the Conservatives, but we have different priorities. We want tax cuts for the millions. We're raising the income tax threshold.
Okay, go on.
So people,
I hate to break up this the happy coalition couple here.
I'm not so sure if they are.
But, you know, every week in the House of Commons, I see the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party march through the lobbies to do things on our health service, to do detrimental things to our schools, to actually start to undermine our country. And then they come out and say, well, we're not really friends, we don't really work together.
We're very different.
Yes, they do. Night after night, when they could vote certain things down, the Liberals and the Conservatives are supporting this government together, and they are both going to take the consequences at the next election.
It's a coalition, but it has been suggested that perhaps the best way forward for you as a party, for the Liberal Democrats, is to distance yourselves from the Conservatives. So, and Lord Oakeshott, I think, has actually suggested that that should happen in the 6 months leading up to 2015's election. So, when do you think it's going to happen?
Well, we have very different priorities to the Conservative Party. We've come into government. We've come into government with them to clean up the mess that the Labour Party left, the economic mess they left us in. We believe in getting low earners, middle income earners out of income tax altogether.
Okay.
That's why we're raising the tax threshold.
We'll have to leave that there, Michael Mullaney. Thank you very much indeed.